Hi, I'm here today to talk about empowering safety in the workplace. My name is Mike Sweet, and I'm an operations manager and project manager for the largest wind energy company in the world, which means I am one of 7 managers that run a group of construction managers, project managers, and technicians who are responsible for building new wind farms and executing special projects on currently operating wind farms. In 2018, Mercer, which is one of the largest consulting firms in the world specializing in people in the workforce, came out with their annual Global Talent Trends study. In it, they identified 3 specific factors that employees look for in a company. They were flexibility, health and well-being, and working with a purpose. My focus today will be on the second factor, health and well-being, or safety, and how do we positively affect the culture within the organization. Field workers and managers in the wind energy industry face many different hazards on a day-to-day basis. They include hydraulic, electrical, and mechanical energy, working at heights, extreme weather, large machinery such as massive cranes and geographic remoteness, among other dangers. Safety and the culture within the group that influences it not only affects the individual employee, but also has an impact on their coworkers and their own families. I have been in this industry for over 10 years now and have seen how devastating a horrific injury can be for those affected. One of the biggest tragedies here is the fact that every single one of them could have been avoided. So what exactly is the problem? My company is one of the best I've seen when it comes to providing training and personal protective equipment, and empowering even the lowest ranking employee to stop work if a hazard is identified. So why do people continue to get hurt? I believe it's because safety programs, directives, and policies simply provide information. They don't change people's mindsets. To do that, you must change the culture. Another factor is complacency. Many employees are so inundated with these safety programs that it just becomes background noise, so they are experienced enough with the work they are doing that their diligence drops, and their mind is more focused on getting the job done instead of really paying attention to all of the dangers that surround them. So my problem statement is this: how do I effectively influence the safety culture and combat this complacency when there are already so many things being done in an effort to positively influence it? And if I do find an effective way to make an impact, how do I ensure that it does not fall victim to the same fate of complacency as every other program? The most commonly used metric in American industry for measuring how safe a company is TRIR, or Total Recordable Incident Rate, which is calculated by multiplying the total number of incidents by 200,000 and dividing that by total number of hours worked. In 2008, my company had a TRIR of over 8, which anyone involved in the safety of any industry in the U.S. will tell you is really bad. Compare that to 2018, when my company had a TRIR of less than 1, which as of 2015 was well below the wind industry average of 1.2 and well below the general construction industry of 3.5. This is obviously very good progress, but my organization takes the stance that all incidents or injuries are preventable, and our goal is a TRIR of 0. On average, my company rolls out 2 large safety programs a year, which often emphasizes one particular hazard. For example, in 2018, we had a program that focused on mitigating dropped objects when technicians are 300 feet up in a wind turbine. This initiative came with all the bells and whistles our programs usually come with. A catchy name, in this case Stop the Drop, lots of posters, site visits from upper management, and worksheets where employees make written commitments to changing and or ensuring safe work habits. Since this program came out, we have continued to see objects drop from overhead workers, one of which seriously injured a fellow employee at the bottom of the turbine. When doing a site visit, I asked a few technicians why this continues to happen, especially after such a huge emphasis was placed on this specific hazard, and the general consensus was that these programs are great when we're talking about them in the office, but when you go out to the job site, they don't even think about it. You just try to get the job done. Also, they feel they are so comfortable performing the work, they aren't really looking out for potential dangers. This is complacency. Merriam-Webster defines the word complacent as marked by self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies. This is a very good and accurate description of what I consider to be the biggest contributing factor to workplace incidents and injuries in my company. Evidence of this is simply that some employees have plainly stated it, that even very experienced technicians and field managers get hurt, and my own experience. I was a technician just like the ones we're talking about and certainly underwent this same complacency, especially as I became more experienced. Another factor that I had not considered in the past was the concept of risk compensation. Risk compensation theory suggests that individuals provided with a protective device such as a bicycle helmet or seatbelt will act in a riskier manner because of the sense of increased protection from the helmet or seatbelt, and thereby nullify the protection afforded by them. In other words, as it applies to my wicked problem, I am suggesting that the complacency exhibited by the majority of the group may partly stem from being bombarded with safety programs, warnings, and the idea that some common sense is being ignored because it is assumed that one can safely go about all tasks if they simply adhere to provided guidelines. With that said, there are many that refute this theory, and I would agree that it should not be used as an all-encompassing safety plan. Just as I mentioned earlier that some employees have told me they are so comfortable with their job that they don't always think about the dangers around them, some have also stated that they believe the safety programs in my company can be too much and can erode the need for critical thinking. After all, one cannot prepare for every single thing. As you can imagine, complacency is a very difficult problem to solve. You can't quantify it, and it's very rarely admitted to. So what do we do about it? I gave an example earlier in the presentation of a safety program that was rolled out recently, the Stop the Drop campaign. While the program's content was applicable to what technicians were seeing in the field, and the company spent a lot of time and resources in developing it, it didn't have the desired effect. So why? A few weeks ago, I attended my department's annual Lead Tech Conference. The only invitees are the 40 or so lead technicians in the group and their direct managers, which I am one of. They are encouraged to speak candidly and freely. They devise their own agenda for the week and discuss what is most important to them in their work and while out on the project site. Safety is always a large topic of discussion, and I specifically asked why the Stop the Drop campaign seemed to fail, as my department has not seen any decrease in the number of dropped objects. And by the way, dropped objects get reported as near misses or hazardous observations, so we hear about them regardless of whether or not somebody is injured. One of the positive aspects of their responses was that their answers were consistent amongst all of the conference attendees and also coincided with what I've observed and been told in the field. People get complacent. They think they know better ways of doing things. They don't feel the rules apply to them, or they simply don't think to take the precautions. Also, to a certain degree, risk compensation. A specific example was when people ascend or descend the ladder in the wind turbine, they are always tied off with a fall protection harness. Because they are always tied off, they will take extra risks when climbing, like skipping rungs on the ladder, going way too fast, or leaning back during the descent and relying on the harness and cable to keep them steady while not even touching the ladder with their hands. While the harness will keep them from plunging to their death, it definitely does not prevent injury, and people have been seriously hurt when caught by their protective equipment. So we have consensus on the why, but what do we do about it? Throughout the conference, there seemed to be a common theme that wasn't being outright stated, but kept being implied by the lead technicians. It was that they were being told what to do and how to do it by people that do not have any experience actually dealing with the hazards they face on a day-to-day basis. This creates an immediate bias towards new safety programs that, whether it's true or not, the designers and implementers don't take into consideration the real world. They also get the impression that when upper management visits sites to discuss and roll out programs, it is more of a threat, to the effect of, you will start doing this or else. After observing this attitude for an entire week, I began discussing with the other senior managers in the group the idea of getting the technicians themselves more involved in how we approach safety in the field. Perhaps abandoning the top-down approach where managers that sit in a headquarters building and decide what is important and what should be focused on. Instead, allow those that experience and deal with the hazards to have a much bigger role in the implementing new programs. Maybe they should be the ones who identify their most serious concerns. Getting them involved and maybe even having the technicians lead the initiatives will instill a sense of ownership in the safety performance of the field and make them feel accountable when somebody is injured or when they see metrics trending in the wrong direction. If getting the field employees more involved in our approach to safety is a possible solution, how do we execute that? First of all, we need more specifics on what deficiencies of the older style programs were. We have a few examples, but I suspect there are many more. I think we can find out by simply asking. The overall culture in my group encourages honesty and openness, and I believe if the questions are stated correctly, we'll get the feedback we need. Is it the content of the programs, the frequency, the communication style, or who delivers it? We would also need feedback on why they feel incidents continue to occur, and what is contributing to their complacency. Is risk compensation actually a factor? By getting this feedback, I think we can really start to understand what the actual need is from those that actually need it. But we need more than feedback and simply promising to get them more involved. We need buy-in. The value proposition to the core stakeholders needs to be presented in a way that emphasizes that they are being heard and that they are in control in order to get maximum participation and personal investment. As I stated, we put a lot of time and resources into these programs, and I don't doubt that a solution like this would be any different. Not only do we need buy-in from those in the field, we need upper management approval. The key partners in this venture beyond the technicians would be the safety management team, managers at the senior director and VP level, field construction and project managers, and of course the lead technicians. The first key activity needed to start this is proposing and developing the solution. As stated, this type of program is significantly different from previous ones, so there will be some vetting needed. After a course of action is decided upon, distribution of the new initiative will be necessary. Historically, my company rolls out new programs via a combination of electronic and in-person means. There are often online presentations, physical workshop tools, and materials like booklets to go through on site, posters, new gear, etc. I think that distribution in this fashion would be effective, but would be valuable to get the field employees directly involved in presenting and leading on-site discussions and explanations. The relationship with the field employees would need to be based on collaboration and involvement rather than top-down direction. So what we're really talking about with a proposal like this is changing the attitude and culture surrounding how we go about and view safety programs in my group in order to combat the negative effects of the factors contributing to the problem. To really make a positive change in this area, I believe we need to get the target customer or the field employees involved in the content and distribution of the product. This has never been done in my group and runs the risk of failing after rollout, not being approved by the appropriate people, or not convincing those potentially involved that this will work. However, if our goal is to truly get to zero incidents and injuries, it is obvious we need to try something different. To wrap up, I'll leave you with this quote. One earnest worker can do more by personal suggestion to prevent accidents than a carload of safety signs. Thank you for your time.